However, after being framed by Yi Ningen several times and knowing that Chen Wan was pregnant, she dispelled this idea. What made her sad was not Yi Ningen's frame-up, but Yi Nanshan stood on Yi Ningen's side for no reason and blamed Chen Wan and her mother. Yi Ningen was a sweet talker and often coaxed Yi Nanshan to be happy. She was angry at first, but she got used to it. Yi Nanshan was used to blaming her no matter whether it was her fault or not. Today she did it on purpose, but she didn't expect. Which ankle did you sprain? Does it hurt? Li Junxing realized that she didn't speak and was a little worried. He bent down to check her feet. Come on, let me see. Yi Zhen subconsciously shrunk her feet back. I didn't sprain it. It was a little difficult for her to say these simple words. She bit her lip and felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't sprain it. I just wanted to anger her on purpose. Her voice was like a mosquito. This was the first time she had done such a thing, so she didn't have enough confidence. I'm sorry. He was mocking me at that time, so I couldn't help but want to anger him. Her voice was very soft. I'm sorry, my foot isn't injured. I made you worry. Li Junxing was stunned for a moment. He looked at Secretary Chin in front of him and changed the address. After thinking for a moment, he pressed the glass in the middle of the car seat. Soon, the car was separated, leaving only her and Li Junxing behind. Uncle Li, are you angry? Yi Zhen pursed her lips, her eyes a little uneasy. It's good that you're fine. Li Junxing pulled her hand and found that it was a little cold. He wrapped her hand in his palm. You're not angry? Why should I be angry? Yi Zhen didn't know what to say. She just stared straight at Li Junxing's face. I used you. Aren't you angry? Li Junxing looked at her nervous expression and couldn't help but laugh. He leaned over and kissed her on the lips. Yes, I know. Then why wasn't she angry? Curiosity won out. She didn't even care that he was taking advantage of her again. It's a good thing to be used by others. At least it means that you still have value in others' hearts. If a person lives in this world and no one wants to use him, that would be a tragedy. Moreover, the little girl knew how to use him to attack the people she hated. This meant that his position in her heart had begun to change. Of course, he wouldn't be angry because of this. Yi Zhen didn't say anything. These words completely subverted her understanding. She hadn't been educated like this since she was young. Her mother, grandfather, and uncle had never taught her these things. So, she could think like this? Li Junxing reached out and gently stroked her cheek. Besides, I'm your boyfriend. I'm very happy that you're using me. Boyfriend? Yi Zhen bit her lip. Uncle Li, you know it's fake. Regardless of whether it's real or fake, since we had an agreement, we have to treat it as real, right? He sent you back, why didn't you bring him in? No matter what, you should let him have a cup of tea before leaving, right? No need. It's not good for your health to drink tea so late at night. Yi Nanshan was angry. Chen Wan stood up. Xinjin, look at you. Why are you so rash? Your father is just concerned about you. After all, you're still too young. You're always so inconsiderate when dealing with people. It's good for you to have an elder to consult with so that your relationship can go further, don't you think so? What relationship? Yi Zhen blinked, looking like he didn't understand. Auntie, why don't I understand what you're saying? You? Chen Wan couldn't hold it in anymore. Didn't you say that? You're going to be the mayor's wife? Yi Zhen was shocked. Did I say that? What are you thinking? Uncle Li is an elder. He just sent me back for my grandfather's sake. Yi Ningen was furious. She stood up. Yi Zhen, why are you pretending? Didn't you say that? Today Mayor Li went to pick you up and he even carried you. So many people saw it. Do you want to deny it? What a joke. Yi Zhen laughed. I sprained my ankle. Uncle Li was kind enough to take me to the doctor. When did I say that I'm going to marry Uncle Li? As she spoke, she glanced at Yi Nanshan. Dad, Uncle Li and I are one generation apart. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at for saying that? She was anxious and hurriedly wanted to get out of Li Junxing's arms. Li Junxing smiled and put her down from his arms. Because she was too anxious and nervous, she almost lost her footing when her feet touched the ground. Li Junxing reached out to help her, but she patted his hand without a trace. She glared at him with a hint of accusation in her eyes. Xinjin. Li Junxing acted as if he didn't see her gaze. He hugged her and took a step forward. This is my mother. Yi Zhen was very embarrassed, very embarrassed. She looked at Li Junxing's mother, and her heart was filled with sorrow. Li Junxing, he really had enough. He didn't even wake her up and let her lose so much face in front of his mother. Hello, Auntie. Yi Zhen called weakly. She really couldn't think of how she could change Li Juanxing's mother's impression of her under such circumstances. Mom. This is Yi Zhen. Li Juanxing saw the interest in his mother's eyes. You can call her Zhenjin. Mother Li looked at Yi Zhen and the smile in her eyes was very obvious. She didn't miss the two addresses just now. Uncle Li? What kind of address was that? Zhenjin, right? What did you call Juanxing just now? Yi Zhen was embarrassed again. And it was the kind that was very embarrassed. Her face was so red that it was almost dripping blood. She was so angry that she couldn't help but pinch Li Juanxing's hand. Li Juanxing snorted slightly, and Mother Li happened to see her action. She burst out laughing. Yi Zhen was even more embarrassed. She had never lost her composure like this before. She felt that she couldn't stay here any longer. So cute. Mother Li couldn't help but step forward and pinch Yi Zhen's little face gently. She didn't use much strength, but she felt even happier when she felt the little girl's face burning. She glanced at Li Juanxing. How do you usually take care of him? You're so skinny. Since you're back, stay here for a few more days and take good care of yourself. All right. Mother Li saw that Yi Zhen's face was burning and patted her on the shoulder. It's like returning to your own home here. Juanxing doesn't know how to take care of people. If he does something wrong, tell me directly. I'll help you teach him a lesson. Yi Zhen was speechless. If there was a hole in the ground, she would have crawled into it. I have something to do and need to go out for a while. I won't be back for lunch. Your sister and your father won't be home at noon. You take Zhenjin for a stroll. When we come back tonight, let's have dinner together. Li Du's mother thought about it and felt that it was not very grand. Why don't we eat outside? Go to the Bright Jade house and ask for a private room. I'll talk to your father. No need. Li Juanxing was the one who spoke. Let's eat at home. Otherwise, Zhenjin will feel uncomfortable. That's true. Mother Li smiled and looked at the embarrassment on Yi Zhen's face. Don't worry, Mother Wang's cooking is very good. She knows how to cook both northern and southern dishes. If there's anything you like in particular, just let Mother Wang know. Yi Zhen looked at Mother Li. Her eyes were very kind, not the kind that was faked. She really seemed to like her very much. The other party's attitude made her more relaxed and more comfortable than before. Auntie, it doesn't matter. I'm not picky about what I eat. So cute. Mother Li liked it even more. Alright, I have something to do and have to go out. I really can't reject this social event at noon. It's all Juanxing's fault. He didn't even tell me that he wanted to bring you back. Don't blame him. I won't. Auntie, you have something to do first. I'm fine. Juanxing. Mother Li looked at her son. Take good care of Zhenjin. I'll leave first. After giving a few more instructions to Li Juanxing, Mother Li left. After she left, Yi Zhen relaxed a lot. When she turned to face Li Juanxing, her expression changed again. It's all your fault. Why didn't you wake me up? It was really too embarrassing. Also, she had clearly asked him to stop the car before coming to Rong City. She was going to buy a gift for his parents. He, on the other hand, went straight home. It was too rude to come empty-handed like this. Don't worry. My mom doesn't mind. Yi Zhen was angry. How was this a matter of whether she minded or not? It was that she felt embarrassed, very embarrassed. Li Juanxing seemed to understand her thoughts. He leaned forward and his forehead was almost touching hers. You care so much about my mom's opinion of you. Are you planning to be my real girlfriend? Yi Zhen even forgot to blush. She stared blankly at Li Juanxing's enlarged face in front of her and finally spat out two words. Nonsense. Li Juanxing smiled. Yi Zhen had long discovered that Li Juanxing seemed to like to smile. What she didn't know was that Li Juanxing only liked to smile in front of her. Most of the time, his expression was very indifferent in front of outsiders. Because Li Juanxing's parents weren't around, Li Juanxing didn't let Yi Zhen stay at the Li family's house for long. After taking Yi Zhen around the Li family's house and familiarizing herself with the environment, he took her out the door. Rong City had an old city, a stone city, and some buildings left behind from the previous colonial period. Although Yi Zhen was also from Z province, she hadn't been to Rong City much. In the afternoon, Li Juanxing took her around the ancient city. Although the ancient city here was small and couldn't compare to Lijiang and Wuzhen, it had its own flavor. After leaving the ancient city, Li Juanxing took Yi Zhen home. When they returned to the Li family, other than Mother Li, Li Juanxing's father, Li Qi, and his sister, Li Wanyu, were also back. Li Wanyu also brought her boyfriend back. Yi Zhen had already seen Mother Li before. When she saw Li Qi, she once again felt nervous. Li's mother didn't believe that she couldn't trick him into telling the truth. It's just because Uncle Lu saved your father's life that you called her here to fool us. Li Juanxing's expression didn't change. He was still calm. Mother Li looked at his reaction, and her expression became colder and colder. If you don't want to have a girlfriend, you can say it clearly. You lied to me like this and brought a fake back. Is this how you treat me and your father, like this? Li Juanxing frowned. He didn't react much to Mother Li's words. Mom, what are you talking about? What did I say? I said that you and Yi Zhen aren't real boyfriend and girlfriend. As she spoke, she slammed the table hard. You brought her back to put on an act to fool me, didn't you? Junxing? Li Qi looked at Li Juanxing in disbelief. He was very grateful to Lu Manjiang for saving his life back then. If he could really marry the other party because of his son, it would be a good thing. Brother? Li Qi and Li Wanyu didn't believe it. Both of them looked at Li Juanxing in shock. He was still as gentle as ever these few days. No matter how flustered and exasperated Mother Li was, she wouldn't make him waver in the slightest. Mom, Zhen isn't here. Don't say that in front of her. Mom, I don't mind telling you that to Yi Zhen she's my fake girlfriend. But to me she's real. Mother Li was very smart. She almost immediately understood the key point. You did it on purpose? Yes, I did it on purpose. Li Juanxing nodded and admitted it bluntly. If I didn't do this, she would have run away a long time ago. How could she have come back with me? Li Wanyu's eyes widened. She couldn't believe that her usually gentle brother would do such a thing. This was too disillusioning. Li Qi couldn't believe it. In the study just now, his son didn't mention anything. Junxing? This wasn't like his son's style of doing things. Don't worry, Mom, Dad. I know what I'm doing. Li Juanxing's eyes flashed with determination. You don't have to be anxious. I'll let you drink this cup of wife tea sooner or later. As he spoke, he stood up and patted Mother Li's shoulder. Mom, next time you don't have to trick me into telling the truth. As long as you ask, I'll tell the truth. You. Mother Li slapped his hand. Don't play tricks on us next time. Don't bully the little girl. Do what you should. Pursue her well. Don't scare her away. Don't worry. Li Juanxing smiled. She won't be able to run away. Li Wanyu looked at Li Juanxing's appearance and had goosebumps all over her body. TSK, her brother's appearance was beyond her imagination. She didn't know if Miss Yi knew about such a blackened brother. If she didn't, Li Wanyu mourned for Yi Zhen for 3 minutes in her heart. As for running in front of Yi Zhen to expose her brother's mask, that was absolutely impossible. Li Juanxing didn't care what his family thought. He wouldn't care about other people's thoughts when he decided on something. He went upstairs and entered the room. This was his room. When he came before, he didn't tell Yi Zhen clearly. When she wanted to rest, he just asked the servant to bring her into his room naturally. In the bathroom, the sound of water could be heard. Li Juanxing narrowed his eyes and thought about the scene inside. His blood couldn't help but rush down. However, he held it in. After thinking for a while, he took his clothes from the closet and went to the bathroom next door to take a shower. Yi Zhen came out of the shower and looked at the room in front of him. This Li family was really extravagant. Even a guest room was so exquisitely decorated. However, this style was a little similar to the style of Li Juanxing's apartment in Qing City. It was simple, clean, and atmospheric. In the afternoon, she walked around for the whole afternoon and talked to Mother Li for a long time. Yi Zhen was also sleepy at this time. She lifted the blanket and lay down to sleep without thinking too much. The weather in Rong City in October was suitable. It was neither hot nor cold. The balcony was opened a little and the wind outside blew in, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Yi Zhen closed her eyes and soon felt sleepy. When she was half asleep, she felt the bed move. At first, she didn't think much about it, but she was shocked by the sudden warmth in her arms. When she realized what it was, her entire body stiffened. She opened her mouth and was about to scream. Her scream was kissed away. Her voice was stuck in her throat. The words that she couldn't say in time made her face turn red. It was also at this time that, with the moonlight shining through the balcony, she saw that the person in front of her was Li Juanxing. He was still in a state of shock and his heart was much more at ease. However, as her body felt the warmth, it quickly rose again. Just when she was about to suffocate, Li Juanxing finally let go of her. She wanted to speak, but her throat was a little choked. Why are you here? Li Juanxing raised his eyebrows and there was a smile in his eyes. This is my room. Is this a lie? Isn't this a guest room? Yi Zhen blinked and she looked especially bright in the dark. Li Juanxing's heart softened. You don't know? Yi Zhen shook her head quickly, and there was a hint of grievance on her face. I thought this was a guest room. As she spoke, she began to push Li Juanxing's body. I'm sorry, I'll go out now. Li Junxing grabbed her waist and pulled her into his arms. He lowered his head and pecked her lips, a faint smile in his eyes. You're going out? Where are you going? Guest room. Yizhen looked embarrassed. Your house is so big. There should be a guest room, right? Zhenzhen. Li Junxing lowered his voice and pressed it against her cheek. His sexy voice made her face heat up again. You're my girlfriend. Are you going to sleep in the guest room? Yizhen was slightly embarrassed. She pressed her hands against Li Junxing's chest. It's fake. It's fake. But if you go out, what will my parents think? Yizhen stammered for a long time, and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. I can sneak in tomorrow morning. As soon as she said this, she felt Li Junxing's chest tremble. Above her head was his low chuckle. She raised her head and looked at him in confusion. Zhenzhen. He couldn't help but kiss her on the cheek again. There are surveillance cameras in the corridor of our house. Was it a lie? Who would install surveillance cameras at home? Yizhen blinked at her and realized that Li Junxing wasn't wearing any clothes. His warm chest was pressed against her palm. She retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted. You. She tried her best to retreat a little and then suggested very seriously, why don't I sleep on the floor? You're here to help me. How can I let you sleep on the floor? It'll be uncomfortable to sleep on it. Then I'll sleep on the sofa? She had seen it just now. The sofa in this room was so big that it could be used as a bed for her. She didn't mind. The sofa is too small. It's easy to fall to the ground. No, I sleep very well, Yizhen said weakly. It was almost a deathbed struggle. That won't do. What if you fall? Yizhen looked at him and couldn't say that she wanted him to sleep on the sofa and she to sleep on the bed. Then what should we do? Just sleep like this. Just sleep like this? Yizhen swallowed her saliva. The dim room was not very bright. Li Junxing's face was not very clear. All of these added up to make the environment in front of them a bit more ambiguous. Isn't this sand too suitable, Uncle Li? Although it was only a short time, she had gotten used to calling him that. Why are you still calling me Uncle Li? What else could she call him if not Uncle Li? Just now, my mom asked me if I found you to put on an act to lie to her. As he spoke, he kissed her nose. This action was even more intimate than kissing her lips. Yizhen's body instantly stiffened. What did you say? I said no. You're really my girlfriend. Then your mom? She didn't believe me and asked me why you called me uncle. Not counting in the morning, Yizhen really couldn't call Ko Junxing's name when they were eating. She called him Uncle Li a few times and even Li Qi looked at them. I could only tell my mom that this is a little romance between us. Romance my ass. So, congratulations. You can continue to call me Uncle Li? Was this the main point? Yizhen's thoughts were once again led astray by Li Junxing. Alright, I've explained everything for you. Now that everything is fine, you can sleep. Yizhen was speechless. She was very thin and slender. Her waist was tightly held in Li Junxing's arms. He held her waist with one hand and placed the other hand on her back, patting her gently. Be good and sleep. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. She seemed to have really fallen asleep. Yizhen, I just called you Uncle Li to be polite. Do you really think of me as your niece? Slam. His chest was so hot that she couldn't sleep at all. She had never been so intimate with someone before. The previous night didn't count. She was unconscious. She had slept alone since she could remember. She had never been hugged so tightly by the opposite sex, not letting her escape the usual sleeping method. She couldn't help but move her body. She left his arms. There was no reaction. She tried to move again. She pressed her hands against his chest and lightly exerted force. Her body slid down. Ding, she touched something. However, when her hand was about to touch that thing, she suddenly reacted. What was that? She looked up at Li Junxing. She didn't know when he had opened his eyes. In the darkness, his eyes were a little too bright. Yizhen suddenly became nervous. You're not asleep? Li Junxing's lips curled up. His big hand grabbed her small hand and moved it down. Do you want to touch it? No. Yizhen was shocked and quickly retracted her hand. Then do you want to do it? Li Junxing pressed her body into his arms. No. Yizhen couldn't even speak clearly. Li Junxing retracted his hand with a disappointed expression. So, you don't want to touch it and you don't want to do it? No, I definitely don't want to. Then why aren't you sleeping? The hint in his words was too obvious and his body's reaction at this moment? Sleep, I'll sleep now. Yizhen closed her eyes as fast as she could and didn't move at all. She was too nervous. She was so nervous that even her breathing was slow, as if something would happen if she breathed even a little. As long as you marry him, you can wait to enjoy a good life. Yi Zhen was really embarrassed. Before she came, she had imagined that she would be put in a difficult position because of the wrong family. On the contrary, these two were either urging her to get married or urging her to get married. Their attitude was so anxious that she couldn't help but wonder if Li Junxing had some hidden illness. Could it be that he really had a hidden illness? The little girl's thoughts were too shallow. Li Junxing could guess what the little girl was thinking without opening his mouth. He couldn't help but pinch her palm hard. Yi Zhen misunderstood his meaning and suddenly realized that she was pretending to be Li Junxing's girlfriend. Since that was the case, of course she had to act like it. She had to take on this responsibility and play the role of Li Junxing's girlfriend. Yes. Yi Zhen didn't refuse again. At most she could return it later. It wasn't a big deal. Li Junxing knew that the little girl had misunderstood, but it didn't matter. The Li family would never take back the gifts they had given. After chatting with his parents for a while, Li Junxing took Yi Zhen out. He told his parents in advance that he wouldn't be coming back for lunch. He had an appointment with Hu Jinyao and the others at noon. Firstly, he hadn't gathered with that group of people for a long time. Secondly, he wanted to introduce Yi Zhen to them. There was a consensus in their circle that if they met a partner they had decided on, they would definitely bring her to their circle and let them know her. Therefore, after Hu Jinyao met Su Qingsang, he even specially called them to Lin City to get to know her. It was the same now. Since Li Junxing had decided on Yi Zhen, he had to let everyone in the circle know her. Yi Zhen didn't know the difference. Li Junxing said that a few friends had invited her to lunch at noon. At first she didn't want to go. However, Li Junxing's next words made her change her mind. "Don't you want me to help you take back the company? You know my identity. There are many things I can't do but someone can." When Yi Zhen saw Hu Jinyao, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The president of Tianyu Group? He was good friends with Li Junxing? And that one Xianying who even the Dong family of Qingqing had to respect as a distinguished guest. The Tang family's hotels had already opened all over the country. That Tang Mohan was actually Li Junxing's childhood friend? Even if she hadn't seen these people before, she had heard of their names. But unexpectedly, she suddenly understood what Li Junxing meant. She pretended to be his girlfriend, and he, in return, introduced his connections to her. Thinking of this, Yi Zhen suddenly felt a little guilty. Li Junxing's repayment was real. However, she wasn't very qualified to be his girlfriend. It made his facial features look somewhat unreal and illusory. Her fingertips moved slightly, wanting to catch the layer of light. However, she found that her hand was held by Li Junxing. He was holding her hand with one hand and reading a document with the other. When she woke up, he happened to feel it too. "You're awake." Li Junxing put the document aside and looked at her watery eyes, which had just woken up and were still a little confused. "I was still thinking that if you didn't wake up, I might have kissed you to wake up." He pinched her palm and kissed her lips. After all, sleeping beauties are always kissed to wake up. Yi Zhen's face was a little red. Because of Li Junxing's analogy, she pulled her hand out of his palm and looked around. "This is my grandfather's house?" "Yes. Let's go. Get out of the car." If she wasn't awake, he wouldn't wake her up. Yi Zhen looked at his side profile, and a strange feeling surged in her heart again. He was really a gentleman who took special care of women. She was asleep and he would rather wait than wake her up. Usually he was considerate and gentle to her. His smile was especially gentle. As the mayor of a city, he didn't put on any airs. However, such a gentleman didn't have a girlfriend. Seriously, Lu Manjiang was especially happy to see Yi Zhen and Li Junxing. Yi Zhen's uncle Lu Zhishuan was also present today. Lu Zhishuan was about the same age as Li Junxing. He was also young and promising and had an outstanding appearance. The two of them had interacted a few times before, so they had a common language. Yi Zhen sat at the side and didn't say anything. However, she kept her ears open and listened carefully to their conversation. She wasn't an idiot, except that she was a little slower than ordinary people when it came to emotions and reactions. She was quite sharp in other aspects. Li Junxing's position determined that his way of looking at problems was different from theirs. When they were chatting, he would get to the point in a few words. Every suggestion was pertinent and feasible, and his analysis was in place. Lu Zhishuan was chatting happily with him. When he spoke, his expression was excited and his eyes were clear. On the other hand, Li Junxing was on the opposite side. No matter what topic it was, when he spoke he would never be too emotional, nor would he be too emotional. Yi Zhen retracted her gaze and occasionally said a few words to Lu Manjiang. However, her gaze would fall on Li Junxing from time to time. He was really a very gentle person. She didn't know who would be so lucky to get such a person in the future. Li Junxing was chatting with Lu Jixuan, but he didn't miss Yi Zhen. Feeling her gaze on him, he smiled without leaving a trace. The results were not bad. When Yi Zhen entered the company, she realized that the way those people looked at her was different again. Now that she had just arrived, it was still unknown who would win. Although Li Junxing didn't understand much about their company, he could give a rough idea. Yi Zhen briefly recounted what had happened. Yi Zhen's eyes were now completely different from when he had been kissed senseless. There was a faint smile in Li Junxing's eyes. Not bad, Jinjin is really amazing. This sudden compliment made Yi Zhen's face turn red. His gaze was very sincere. He really felt that she was very powerful and was praising her. She thought of Yi Nanshan's previous accusations against her. Compared to Li Junxing, Yi Nanshan was clearly her family, but he only knew how to blame her. As for Li Junxing, the two of them had only interacted a few times, but he trusted her unconditionally and stood on her side. Yi Zhen couldn't tell what she felt in her heart. She always felt that there was an emotion similar to being touched surging in her chest and couldn't get rid of it. Yi Ningen gulped down one glass after another. Her eyes were about to turn red. Her gloomy gaze coldly looked at the scarlet wine in front of her. She only felt the strong wine enter her throat, causing the hatred in her heart to roll even more. Yi Zhen, Yi Zhen, Yi Zhen. These two words were like a thorn in her heart, making her feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, a hand appeared on her shoulder. Qin Liang had come out of nowhere and sat down beside her. Yo, good sister, why are you drinking here alone? If you want a drink, call me brother. I'll drink with you. Actually, Qin Liang wasn't too bad looking. He was tall and thin and his face was pale. His facial features were decent. It was just that he had been in the streets for many years, so he had a bit of a bad temper. He didn't look proper and people would feel a little uncomfortable when they saw him. At this moment, Yi Ningen had goosebumps all over her body and was trembling all over the ground. Don't bother me. Go away. Yo. Good sister, what's wrong with you? Tell me your big brother. Your brother doesn't have much ability, but he can still help you come up with ideas. Can you? What good ideas? Yi Ningen was about to say a few sarcastic words to him, but when she met his shrewd and somewhat fawning face, she suddenly stopped talking. She put down the glass in her hand. At this moment, Yi Ningen's eyes suddenly changed from anger and hatred to grievance. Pitiful. Brother Aoyang. You're really the person who treats me the best in this world. Of course you're my sworn sister. If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well? Aoyang patted her shoulder, looking like he had a deep relationship with Yi Ningen. Yi Ningen resisted the urge to vomit and wanted to wave his hand away. She blinked her eyes and a drop of tears seemed to fall from her eyes. Brother Aoyang, you're just my sworn brother, but you can treat me so well. But some people, including my biological sister, can't tolerate me at all. Biological sister? Yi Ningen seemed to have thought of something and suddenly smiled. Yi Zhen, you definitely didn't expect it, did you? You racked your brains to think of bringing Zai Qinliang to me to make things difficult for me. But you didn't expect that one day I would use Qinliang to make things difficult for you, right? Thinking of Qinliang's means, she was really looking forward to it. Qinliang, don't let me down again. Yi Zhen felt a little uncomfortable. She subconsciously reached out to cover the position of her heart. Li Junxing sensed her cowering state. He turned to look at her and whispered into her ear, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. What's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Yi Zhen shook her head. I'm fine. Maybe the temperature of the air conditioner is a little low. Hearing this, Li Junxing took off his suit jacket and put it on Yi Zhen. Where my clothes? Yi Zhen and Li Junxing had gone to the Immortal Source house for dinner and came all the way here. Because she had to work during the day, she was wearing a white shirt and a black A-line skirt. Looking at Li Junxing's clothes, Yi Zhen was about to say that there was no need, but the background on the stage had already begun to change. The passionate background music made her voice unclear for a moment. Yi Zhen couldn't refuse his kindness. She could only look at him gratefully and continue to look at the stage seriously. Li Junxing's hand held her hand at the right time. She tried to pull her hand back, but she couldn't pull it back after using a few gentle efforts. She simply gave up. She focused on the stage and watched the performance seriously. The opera was well arranged and the actors sang well. The stage and the background were all very beautiful. She should have been admiring it seriously, but she couldn't ignore the clothes covering her body. It was filled with Li Junxing's aura. She tried her best to control it and even made her breathing very light. However, the other party's aura was too strong, and she couldn't let him throw the clothes on his face. Yi Zhen was still enduring, but a hand held her hand at this moment. The other party didn't use much strength, but she couldn't break free at all. Unlike her hand, which would become slightly cold after being blown by the air conditioner, his hand was always warm. It was just like the feeling he gave people. Yi Zhen couldn't help but turn her head to look at him. His side profile was handsome. From this angle, his eyes were clear and his expression was calm. Most importantly, such a person also knew how to respect and take care of women. It was really too rare. Li Junxing felt Yi Zhen's gaze on him. He smiled and held her hand harder. Her hands were not good-looking. Compared to her appearance, her hands were meaty. Although her fingers were slender, they were fatter than the average girl's. It felt meaty when pinched. Li Junxing stopped her. He pinched her palm and opened it to look at the lines on her palm. "Don't move. I'll read your palm." Yi Zhen almost choked on his own saliva. Li Junxing help her read her palm? "Uncle Li, aren't you all atheists? You know how to read palms?" "Yes." Li Junxing nodded with a serious expression. Yi Zhen didn't believe him. His fingers brushed across her palm. She felt itchy. Other than the itch, there was an electric current flowing from her palm to her heart. She swallowed her saliva and suddenly felt a little difficult to breathe. Li Junxing didn't seem to notice her abnormality. His fingertips brushed across her lifeline. "Your lifeline is very long. Although there are some small forks in the front, I can see that you will have a very rich and long life." Yi Zhen saw that he was serious and didn't believe him. Instead, it felt like he was a scammer. "Your career line is also not bad. You will have great achievements in the future." Bullsh *T, right? "Your love line." Li Junxing paused and looked up at Yi Zhen. Yi Zhen was a little nervous under his gaze. "Your love line has always been to the end without any forks. This means that you will only fall in love once in your life, and then you can grow old together." "Is this for real?" Yi Zhen pulled her hand back and looked at it for a long time, but she couldn't see anything. "Uncle Li, you're lying to me, right?" "No, I'm serious." "Ha." Yi Zhen didn't believe him. "You don't believe me?" Li Junxing's body leaned in her direction. His breath brushed against her face. Yi Zhen was inexplicably nervous and swallowed her saliva. "Uncle Li, I don't think feudal superstition is advocated nowadays, right?" "So?" Li Junxing stared at the red lips that were inches away from him. His gaze deepened. "So I really don't believe what you said." The atmosphere in front of her was a little strange. Yi Zhen pulled her hand back and smiled a little awkwardly. "Since you don't believe me, then I naturally have to let you believe me." Li Junxing's voice disappeared into her lips. She widened her eyes as she stared at the enlarged face in front of her. For a moment she felt something flash through her mind, but it was quickly messed up by his kiss. His hand covered her eyes. She had no choice but to close her eyes, but her senses were even sharper. His breath, his lips, his temperature, and his kiss. The moment she felt weak and could only lean into his arms, he released his hand from her eyes and looked down at her blushing face. His voice was a little hoarse. "Now do you believe me?" Yi Zhen blinked. He didn't quite understand what her believing him had to do with him kissing her. "You still don't believe me?" He looked at her misty eyes, which were filled with mist. "I'll confirm it with President Ning tomorrow." "Really? Congratulations in advance." "Thank you, Uncle Li." Yi Zhen cleared her throat. "Uncle Li, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up." After saying this, Yi Zhen quickly hung up the phone. Li Junxing held his phone and narrowed his eyes when he felt the speed at which the little girl on the other end of the phone hung up the phone. What's wrong with the little girl? When Yi Zhen hung up the phone, she felt a slight stuffiness in her heart. She couldn't say why she felt uncomfortable. She shook her head. She thought it's all fake anyway. It doesn't seem to be a problem to reject Li Junxing. Anyway, this girlfriend of hers is fake. Since it's fake, could it be that she really dated him and had other thoughts? Shaking her head, Yi Zhen told herself not to think about it. Next, she would try her best to make Ninghai's plan perfect. The next day, Yi Zhen made an appointment with President Ning. Last time at President Ning's family banquet, she left early. Tonight, she specially offered to be the host and treat President Ning to dinner. The place for dinner was booked at a private restaurant. Apart from her, she called Xiao Su. President Ning had a secretary surnamed Zhao. Not long after Yi Zhen arrived, President Ning and Secretary Zhao arrived. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Yi Zhen took out the newly revised plan for President Ning to see. Originally, she should have asked President Ning to go to Jiang Hui's company. However, President Ning and Jiang Hui's cooperation was because of Yi Zhen's uncle, Lu Zhishuan. President Ning himself didn't like Yi Nanshan, so he didn't like to go to Jiang Hui to talk about business. After Yi Zhen showed the plan to the other party, there was a hint of admiration in President Ning's eyes. Not bad. I didn't expect that the original plan can't be used anymore. You can still come up with a better plan. This is better than the original one. Thank you for your praise, President Ning. Yi Zhen had a faint smile on her face. She was still very confident in her own plan. Okay, let's do it this way. President Ning made the decision. Yi Zhen smiled. President Ning, I'll ask them to serve the dishes. Okay. President Ning didn't object. He admired Yi Zhen very much. Yi Zhen glanced at Xiao Su. Xiao Su stood up and went to find the waiter to serve the dishes. President Ning's secretary Xiao Zhao went out to make a call. Not long after, he came in and looked at President Ning, then at Yi Zhen. He went forward and said a few words to President Ning. President Ning's face was a little surprised, then he glanced at Xiao Zhao. Are you sure? No. President Ning stood up and glanced at Yi Zhen. Xiao Yi, I have a friend outside. I'll go say hello. Okay. Do as you wish. Yi Zhen stood up. She didn't know who President Ning's friend was. Xiao Su came back at this time and said that President Ning was outside chatting with someone. In her dream, she was chased by a ferocious beast. She couldn't escape no matter how hard she tried. That ferocious beast was extremely powerful. He chased her up mountains and down seas. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape. Later, she was overtaken and eaten by wild beasts until not even her bones were left. She was scared to death, but she couldn't wake up no matter what. Therefore, after a whole night of sleep, he still felt tired. He would wake up in a daze. Only then did he realize that he hadn't felt this way for a long time. He had a splitting headache. The bones in his body felt as if someone had taken them apart and reassembled them. He could hardly open his eyes. His body also felt like it wasn't his own. The strange feeling in his body woke her up. When he opened his eyes, he was in a completely unfamiliar environment. She was shocked. She wanted to get up, but there was a pain in that unspeakable place. Hiss! Yi Zhen sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, the door of the room was opened and footsteps approached. You're awake? The gentle voice was like jade striking each other. She looked at the person who came. Li Junxing? Not feeling well? He held a bowl in his hand. This tea can sober you up. Get up and drink some. Yi Zhen didn't move. Her mind was a little sluggish. Why was Li Junxing here? No, she should ask why was she here with Li Junxing. She remembered that she was having dinner with President Ning yesterday, but Li Junxing came. Then, do you like me kissing you? Do you want to eat me? I'm very delicious. I'll teach you how to eat me. How about this? Are you comfortable? Do you like it? Those extremely shameful scenes, conversations, and you. Yi Zhen opened her mouth, her voice hoarse. She gritted her teeth and glared at the man in front of her. Li Junxing helped her up. Come drink this. His voice was very gentle, and his expression was also very gentle. But now, to Yi Zhen, the man in front of her was almost like a demon. She was thirsty, so she didn't refuse the bowl that he handed to her lips for the time being. The tea with a strange taste entered her throat. She felt much better. Li Junxing fed her the hangover tea and put the bowl aside. Do you want to sleep for a while, or do you want to get up and eat breakfast before going to sleep? I have to go to work. Yi Zhen softened her voice. She was still in Li Junxing's arms. She tried to retreat from his arms. However, her limbs were really weak. She secretly gritted her teeth. The man in front of her really proved what a beast in human clothing was. Who knew? He was gentle under the suit and leather shoes, but he was actually like that in bed. Thinking of last night's experience, she became even more angry. She couldn't care less about her physical discomfort and insisted on leaving his arms. As soon as his feet touched the ground, his body went limp and he fell forward. Yi Zhen was so angry that she almost laughed. She looked at the three shareholders and then at Yi Nanshan's face, which could be described as a villain intoxicated by success. Chen Wan, who was sitting next to Yi Nanshan, was not in a hurry, nor did she argue. Okay. If you want me to go home and rest, I will go home and rest. But I hope you will not regret it. What do you mean? Are you trying to threaten me? Yi Nanshan was a little guilty at first. But when he was provoked by Yi Zhen's words, his expression changed again. Let me tell you, you are still young. If you do not learn to adapt to circumstances, you will suffer in the future. If you are smart, you should be more sensible. If you are willing to know your place, it is not impossible to let you go back to the company in the future. Yi Zhen did not speak. She stared coldly at Yi Nanshan's face and finally packed up her things on the table, turned around and left without looking back. When she reached the door of the meeting room, she suddenly stopped. She turned to look at the other 3 shareholders. Uncle Shen, Uncle Zhang. I know that my mother has been gone for almost 11 years, and you can't always remember her. But I hope you will not forget. How did this company get to where it is today? What my mother did for this company and what she sacrificed you should know better than me. Tea cools when people are gone, that is the norm in society. But what people do, God is watching. I only hope that when you sleep in the middle of the night, you will not be frightened by nightmares. The expressions of the 2 shareholders, Shen and Zhang, darkened. Director Jiang also lowered his head. It was indeed beneath his status to treat a young girl like this. Yi Zhen, don't try to mislead people with your fallacies. You left because of your own mistake. Don't talk nonsense. Of course he knew what Lu Hui had done for the company. But when Yi Zhen mentioned it again, not only was Yi Nanshan not moved, he was annoyed. What he hated the most was people saying that he relied on women to get to where he was. Did they really think that he did not know those people who laughed at him behind his back? I know how I left and you should know it too. Yi Zhen glared coldly at Yi Nanshan and added mercilessly, just like how my mother died. I think you should know it too. Yi Nanshan's face turned green. He looked at Yi Zhen and pointed a finger at her, panting heavily. Yi Zhen did not have time to look at him. She opened the door and glanced coldly at everyone present. She was about to leave, but when she saw the flash of guilt in Chen Wan's eyes, she suddenly stopped. What was Chen Wan feeling guilty about? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.